This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, it's a big day. This is kind of make it or break it for the Mark Carney minority government. MPs, just hours after we're talking to you here, will vote on a vote of confidence. Obviously, this is voting on the budget. And as you know, if you've been paying even a tiny little bit of attention to what's going on right now, that minority government, Mark Carney's government, after rolling out its very first budget, working on recruiting votes to get it passed, and they've been doing this in a number of different ways, and the developments have been very interesting. We've seen Chris D'Entremont out of Nova Scotia move across the floor from the Conservatives to the Liberals. We've seen Matt Genereux, a longtime Conservative MP and MLA before that, out of Alberta, resign from the party. His resignation will officially trigger this spring, but it's called into question the solidity, maybe even, why would we say, the solidarity behind Pierre Poilievre, the concrete nature or not of his leadership. And then, of course, there's the NDP, the Bloc, the Greens that factor into this. It could be Elizabeth May's vote that either, keeps this Carney government moving or sends Canadians back to the polls for the second time in a year. Now, rumblings out of Ottawa, and we'll talk to Supriya Dwivedi about this in the back nine of this episode, suggest that at least two NDP members of Parliament may abstain from voting, which would work the numbers in a way that would allow the budget to pass, the government to survive, without those NDP MPs giving the budget their stamp of approval. In just a moment, we're going to ask an MP out of Edmonton Centre. She's a cabinet minister in Alberta for Mark Carney's government, what she makes of all this. Eleanor Olszewski will be joining us in just a quick second. Before we go any further, you see this bottle. If you're watching us on YouTube, you've been seeing it on our set, in the backgrounds, in the forefront. Over the past week and a half or so, Real Talk is very proud to be supporting the YWCA's Rose campaign, and we're doing that with the support of our friends at Hanson Distillery. This Rose campaign is part of a broader 16 days of activism, and this is a national advocacy campaign to end violence against women, girls, and gender minorities. The team at Hanson Distillery has been incredibly generous in their support of this campaign, donating a barrel of their beloved 3-year whiskey to the cause. They've donated the bottling, they've donated the labels, which means that every single bottle of this Whiskey Rose that we're showing you, this is the pink labeled bottle that you're seeing on our set, and there's still a few of them available, not many. They're getting close to sold out, but a few of these bottles left at Hanson Distillery. If you're in the Metro Edmonton region, this is right by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, 174th Street, 111th Avenue. The bottles are going for $100 per. Whiskey lovers, trust me, as a fellow enthusiast, the bottle is well worth the $100 investment. The coolest part about it, though, every single cent is going to be going to the cause, going to the YWCA's Rose campaign. 250 bottles to start. We'll pump them up until they're all sold, and once they are, that'll be $25,000 to the YWCA's Rose campaign. You can learn more about that at ywcaofedmonton.org. You can check out Hanson online at hansondistillery.com. That's Whiskey Rose, a limited edition release in support of the YWCA's Rose campaign. Well, today's the day that MPs will vote on this budget that Mark Carney hopes will glean enough support to keep his minority government alive. The fact of the matter is, it seems quite obvious that the Prime Minister has bigger goals than just getting the budget passed. In fact, his government is just 2 seats away from majority government territory, which would, of course, be a game changer. Here to talk about it and to dig into the details is the Member of Parliament out of Edmonton Centre. She's the Minister of Emergency Management and the Minister responsible for Prairies Economic Development Canada, the Honourable Eleanor Olszewski. I see the Canadian flag, the Alberta flag proudly behind you. You're in a bit of a unique position in that Liberal cabinet, aren't you?
I certainly am. And Ryan, it's actually such a big day for us. It's just an understatement to say that. And I guess I want to start by thanking you for having me back on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Well, we're always happy to have you, and we want to hear from those that are putting the budget together and those that are working to get it passed. We're hearing from a lot of business leaders and community organizers, and we've heard a lot of response to this budget. But I'm grateful to have your perspective represented here as well. It's been a bit of a wild past couple of weeks for this government, obviously, with Chris D'Entremont joining the government, rumblings that Matt Genereux may have been considering. And what's it been like for you, the perspective from the inside?
Well, I'll tell you that, all of those machinations have been, they've been interesting to listen to and to watch. But honestly, my own focus and the focus of my colleagues is absolutely working as hard as we can to make sure that Canadians understand what's in our new budget and making sure we can do everything possible to have that budget passed today.
Okay, well, let's talk to you. You're minister responsible for Prairie's economic development, Canada. Why don't we start there? We've heard from our friends at the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. We've heard from business leaders. Some of them have given the budget, I would say significant accolades. Others have indicated, the areas of concern. But in the role that you have, and in that portfolio, what in this budget are you talking to your colleagues and stakeholders in the prairies about? What do you think this budget most meaningfully addresses?
In terms of businesses, I can say, Ryan, that I had discussions with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce about a week or so ago, and they were so enthusiastic about this budget, particularly in terms of what it means for small and medium-sized businesses, because there are tax credits and capital cost allowance changes that will really be beneficial to businesses who want to scale up, who want to purchase equipment, purchase machinery. So they spoke very, very, very positively about this budget. And I would say it's been the same thing, no matter who I've spoken to over the last week or so. There's been a lot of enthusiasm. Individual Canadians, I think, are really happy that a number of the programs that they really depend on, whether that's pharmacare, dental care, childcare, the Canada Student Loan Program, Canada Child Benefit, that all these things were preserved in this budget. And I think, one of the things that I heard categorically as well was how business people were so pleased that the government had sought to reduce its expenditures on programs that are, just no longer that valuable for Canadians. And so it's a budget that focuses on investment while cutting some government spending. And many business people were really pleased and thought that was a very sensible approach.
I know for at least the past 6 weeks or so, maybe the past couple of months, a lot of those on the prairies, folks, professionals involved in the oil and gas industry coast to coast, were wondering if there might be some sort of a pipeline announcement or a partnership announcement between the government of Alberta and the federal government ahead of Grey Cup. Shout out, by the way, to the Grey Cup champions, Saskatchewan Roughriders. There was not a pipeline on that list. Was that something specifically that you had been advocating for? Can you take us behind the scenes?
I've spoken about this before, and certainly I absolutely believe that. And of course, it's reasonable that if Alberta wants to put forward a proposition with respect to a pipeline, that this is something I would advocate for on behalf of Albertans. This is my province, but I can tell you that there are ongoing discussions with respect to a pipeline in Alberta, and I suspect that we'll hear more about that in the days to come. And certainly it's been talked about in conjunction with a carbon capture program as well. And I'm really interested in hearing sort of where those discussions go. And as I say, we will hear more about that in the days and weeks to come.
CAP, the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, actually applauded that latest list of what we're calling the nation-building projects that was announced by your boss, the Prime Minister, just a few days ago, as another LNG project. Liquefied natural gas made the cut. I saw that this special designation through the Major Projects Office for this LNG project would give it special treatment, I guess, to fast-track approvals and maybe even sidestep certain environmental laws like the Fisheries Act or the Species at Risk Act. It's a fine line that this government is trying to walk, isn't it, on economic development and environmental responsibility, and we're seeing that on a number of different fronts. Can you talk to us about finding that and sort of the delicate dance that it is?
Yeah, I sure can, Ryan. And I think, it's really important to just think about what the role of the Major Projects Office is. And it really isn't to pick winners and losers, so to speak. It's really to provide a regulatory framework so that when projects are brought forward to that Major Projects Office, there's a system and a framework for reviewing them. And if they are designated as a project that's in the national interest, then the regulatory approval system will be quicker for that project. There'll be a one-window approach as to multiple requirements for permitting. And what will happen in the end is a single conditions document. But I think the most important thing to remember is that the purpose of the Projects Office is not to cut corners. It's to expedite and to make sure that things are efficient. Then so even to meet the criteria to be designated as a project of national interest, climate concerns are going to be relevant, and what Indigenous people, whether or not the project advances Indigenous interests, is also relevant as well. Then at the end of the regulatory process, once there's a list of conditions, those conditions will likely include some environmental matters that need to be attended to, as well as some conditions with respect to Indigenous consents and approvals. And so, again, the purpose of the office it's really to provide investor certainty and proponent certainty so that everyone understands what the regulatory process will be and they understand the timing of that process. And it's not a situation where there'll be hundreds of projects that will be designated to be in the national interest. It will likely be, a handful of projects. And although it might be difficult to look at some of them and get excited about them, might say, well, it's a nickel mine. What does that, how is that a project in the national interest? But to the extent that something like a nickel mine or a graphite mine, in terms of producing critical minerals that the rest of the world wants, as well as minerals that we can use in our own country, not only can we open supply chains with that particular project, but if you think of that, what that means in terms of that community, it's going to produce jobs for hundreds, if not thousands of people who are involved in whatever industry that might be. Then there'll be all of the ancillary spin-off from that. So there might be a new school in that community or some new stores, retail that opens in that community. And so we're really looking at not only diversifying supply chains so that we reduce our dependence on the United States, but that we create ideal conditions in a local economy as well for people to thrive in that community. And that's the whole purpose behind these nation building projects.
From your perspective, was there like a single most significant prairie focused investment in this budget? And if so, if there's really one that jumps out at you, can you comment on maybe why that was prioritized right now?
I think one of the things that matters to a lot of individuals and communities, as well as to municipalities, is the infrastructure fund, the Build Communities Strong Fund, because that's a very, very large fund that has 3 different streams, and it can be used to build infrastructure in a community. It can be used for roads and wastewater systems, and all kinds of other infrastructure projects. So in a community like Edmonton or like Calgary, those funds can be drawn down on to build or replace infrastructure. And that will be a huge benefit, again, not just in terms of replacing or installing new infrastructure, but in terms of the job creation that will be created by a fund like that. And the fund doesn't relate just to infrastructure like, sewers and roads, but it also can relate to those things that make, really living in our communities richer. And so when I was in Edmonton last, I made an announcement at Rapid Fire Theatre, and it was one of the specific groups, that in the Bissell Centre, that were specifically referenced in the budget, that are Edmonton organizations that receive funding through the Build Community Strong Fund. And so I see a lot of incredible benefit from just that fund, again, for not only municipalities, but for smaller organizations and groups that enrich our communities.
That fund, a plan to enable, I'll reference, the government's literature on this, enabling $1 trillion investments over the next 5 years, investing $51 billion over the next decade, following by $3 billion per year, as you mentioned, to revitalize local infrastructure, things like hospitals, universities, colleges, roads, bridges, water, transit systems, et cetera. Is that a direct response to feedback from municipalities? I know, at least here in the Prairie provinces, in particular in Alberta, there's been some robust debate between provincial and municipal elected representatives on who should pay for what, how those funds should be accessed or freed up, and the like. Is this a direct response to that?
I think that in part it is, and in part it's just a realization that this is a sensible investment for the federal government to make, because again, it does result in job creation in that local community. And we have a lot of aging infrastructure in communities across the country, and it won't be possible for us to move ahead if we don't have, it won't be possible for our communities to grow properly if we don't have roads to take people to their destinations, if we don't have infrastructure that gets people to work, if we have, ancient sewage and wastewater systems. So I think, Ryan, it's really all of those things. Absolutely.
Minister Eleanor Olszewski, our guest here. Super Chat Ken in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says, I was disappointed that there wasn't more in the budget for small business. He says specifically accelerated depreciation for equipment, for AI research. Let's talk about AI and tech. Let's talk about sort of the future of industry and economic development in deliberations around the cabinet table and in this budget coming together. How much does that factor in? What's this government's position on, I guess you might say, sort of the bear or bull position on that?
With respect to AI, Ryan, I mean, it's really important to the government from a number of perspectives. And certainly one is that we want to improve some of our own efficiencies by incorporating AI in what we do as a government. So across our government departments is a signal how much AI means to this government, that we have, in fact, a minister for AI in Evan Solomon. And certainly, with respect to businesses, it was so interesting. I crossed the Prairie provinces over the summer, and I saw really firsthand how small and medium businesses are using AI to expand and to prosper. And that's in everything from, how you sort grain to how you park cars. All the way to specific kinds of research projects. And so just by way of example, I used to sort grain by, putting a shovel in a big bin and then maybe taking a look at it in your hand and figuring out, what the moisture content is, if it's looking moldy, etc. But with AI, you can very quickly, very accurately, and very objectively assess the quality of grain. And this is a really important thing for farmers, because that quality assessment can follow that crop from, where it's originally graded to where it might be sold. later on. And so it was fascinating to me to see, as I say, how many businesses are using AI to improve their productivity in particular. And, Canada's a country that suffers a bit from lagging productivity. So I think AI used responsibly is going to be a great boon to us that way. Absolutely.
Minister, you spoke just about a week ago on the new climate competitiveness strategy in budget 2025. I think it's fair to say that some groups, in particular environmental action groups, have been critical of the Prime Minister relatively early in his tenure for waffling, I guess, or at least for what they perceive to be, walking back Canada's commitment to climate targets, to musing about maybe getting rid of an emissions cap, to lifting the consumer carbon tax, to musing about walking away from commitments made in Paris and the like. Do you think that what this budget rolls out with the climate competitiveness strategy is enough to satisfy those that were hoping to see more from this Liberal government on climate?
It's a great question, Ryan. And I think, from my perspective, I don't see it as our government walking back from our climate commitments. I see it as maybe a realignment or a rethinking of how we talk about climate change and how we talk about the environment. And I think, certainly as far as our government's concerned, we're of the view that our economic success actually really goes hand in hand with our climate success. And we know that we can grow our economy. We know that we can do that by reducing emissions, that to stay competitive, whether we're talking about Alberta or, our country, to stay competitive in a global world, we are going to need to reduce emissions. And so I would like to think of it as an alignment of, in particular, our industrial and energy sectors with what's really a global clean growth trend. And, if we're not part of that trend, we're going to be left behind. And so what we also know is that we need investor certainty, and we needed to have some carbon pricing reform. And so that's partly what our climate competitiveness strategy does as well.
Minister, I'm curious to know about any collaboration that may exist. We'll recognize that you're still relatively new in your tenure in Ottawa as well, serving in your first term right now. You're one of two Liberal MPs in Alberta. There's one other colleague of yours in Saskatchewan. Other than that, it's essentially all Conservatives. Is there conversation, maybe not collaboration, is there consultation with Conservative MPs in the prairies as well? I mean, that's your portfolio. What goes into, how you best understand what the prairie provinces are looking for and really what they need?
There absolutely is collaboration, and certainly at a committee level, there is a lot of collaboration. But I would say basically every day that I'm in the House, you'll see one of our members across the floor before Kuby starts to talk to someone on the other side, and vice versa. I myself regularly have meetings with my Conservative colleagues, also with some NDP and Bloc colleagues. And so those kinds of discussions and working together does in fact happen all the time. In addition, I just finished a couple of days ago my emergency management meeting with my emergency management counterparts from provinces and territories. And so, regardless of political persuasion, that is an area of immense cooperation, as all of my emergency counterparts and myself work together to make sure that we don't have a wildfire season like this one, and that we do what we can to strengthen our response. And so that's, to me, a tremendous example of people across all party lines, provincial, federal, working together. And certainly I have discussions with my emergency counterpart from Alberta, Mike Ellis, quite often as well.
So in closing, so where's your head at right now? Where is this caucus's head at right now? You think that this thing's going to pass? Will this government survive?
Well, I'm optimistic, Ryan, and for me, I don't really want to have to get out my Canada Goose jacket and Sorel boots and go door knocking in December. So I'm really going to cross my fingers. And this government works so hard. We've worked so hard over the past few months, and we have a great, bold and ambitious plan to move our country forward. And I just really really personally want this budget to pass so that we can continue to work hard for Albertans and for Canadians.
Minister, thanks for doing this. Appreciate your availability.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
See you again.
Yeah, we'll see you again soon. That's Minister Eleanor Olszewski. She's Canada's Minister of Emergency Management, as well as the minister responsible for Prairie's economic development in Canada. We're going to get Supriya Dwivedi's take on what we just heard. And we'll get Supriya to look into her crystal ball. What does this vote look like today? Will it be NDP MPs abstaining? Will there be another last-minute floor crossing? That's not happening, let's be real. But Supriya joining us the first episode of every week in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. That coming up in less than 2 minutes. This show does not happen without the support of our incredible friends at Friesen Brothers. Thrilled to let you know that their new Mother Dough Bread Co. sandwich shop is now open in Alberta's capital city, Winterburn Point, featuring sandwiches using Friesen Brothers' signature sourdough focaccia baguettes. You can stop by to try a farmhouse club, a pesto chicken caprese salad. That sounds amazing. How about this? A Sunday beef pot roast sandwich and more. Don't forget a sourdough cinnamon bun or maybe a dozen of them for dessert. You can learn more at motherdoughbreadco.com. Every Thursday here on the show, Play Alberta presents stories of Alberta winning. We've got an amazing one locked and loaded for all you grill masters out there. Coming up this Thursday, Albertans are winning every single day with Play Alberta via the app or online at playalberta.ca with casino winners every hour, jackpots worth millions, and revenue that stays in the province of Alberta. That's a big one. There's never been a better time to sign up. And right now, Real Talkers can score a $50 casino bonus when you make a minimum $50 deposit with the code RYAN50. That's RYAN50, no spaces, for a $50 casino bonus when you make a minimum $50 deposit. Start playing today. Find out if you're Alberta's next winner. You must be 18 or over to play. And of course, if you do decide to gamble, please do use your game sense. North Road Investment Council has a message for established professionals, business owners that are asking big financial questions like, should you pay yourself in dividends or salary? Or should you put savings into a TFSA or an RSP? Or maybe leave the money inside the corporation for your eventual retirement? There could be another option that your current financial advisor maybe hasn't even told you about. If your business is earning more than $200,000 annually, if you're over the age of 40, you should take a serious look at the IPP. That's an individual pension plan, a powerful retirement strategy that can provide higher tax-deferred savings over RRSPs, but it's not for everybody. So the team at North Road has put together a clear, plain language white paper on the IPP, benefits and challenges, so you can learn if it's right for you. You can connect with them, request that IPP info on their website. That's northroadic.com. And our friends at California Closets reminding you as you transition into the winter season, maybe you're down into your existing storage room looking for the holiday decor, putting away the Thanksgiving stuff, and realizing that it's finally time to truly get organized. The consultations with California Closets are always free. You've got nothing to lose. Sit down with a designer, talk to them about your space, talk to them about your budget, your vision, and then let them go to work. Everything that California Closets manufactures is made right here in our home province of Alberta. It is proudly Canadian-owned. They can work with any space, any budget, and everything is guaranteed for life. If you're picking up on a little enthusiasm in my voice, it's because we're proud customers of California Closets. Ours was installed 8 years ago. Still looks incredible. I'd recommend them to absolutely anybody. You can request that free consultation today at californiaclosets.ca. John Hicks, the intrepid producer of this show. Why don't we loop in Supriya Dwivedi and catch up on our weekends? I don't know if did you have a chance to check out the 112th Grey Cup?
I did.
Okay.
Well, I was also watching my Miami Dolphins, who are currently third in the AFC East, just getting their butts kicked 4-7.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have to confess to you about something in my football pool.
You got
I lied to you when I was making my picks early Thursday. I was lying to you. I said I'm going to bet on your Dolphins, and then
you did it.
When the rubber hit the road and I had to make my choice, I bet against your Dolphins. I had to. I can't trust them.
Shut up, because they pulled out a win against
I know.
the guys who are going to be in the new Trump Stadium there, the Washington Commanders, 16-14. But it was great. I thought Grey Cup was great. Congrats to the Riders. We'll show a little pick here.
We got a positive reflections, as a matter of fact, that is specifically about the Grey Cup, which I'm loving today.
It was a good Grey Cup. I thought it was funny because Carney was there. Remember, we were talking about politicians showing up at major sporting events. Carney showed up. He sat on the panel for about a minute or two, and it was funny because they were asking him, obviously trying to get him to pick a winner, like, oh, who do you think is going to win? Oh, Canada, whoever wins is great. But then they brought up how there is a Carney on the Riders, number 11, Malik Carney. Yeah. And they started making jokes about how, are you guys related? And like, obviously not. And Carney was like, oh, yeah, we got the same stature and everything. He's a big guy, right? And so at the end, it was funny because Mark Carney, our prime minister, said, you know what? Okay, they got a Carney on their team. You know what? Riders. I choose Riders, which was that's a big bet to say on live TV. And then they went on to win, thank God.
Well, I wonder if let's ask Supriya Dwivedi on this, on the risk. I mean, she's been a professional risk manager as the senior advisor to a Prime Minister of Canada in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. It's nice to see your face. Did you dabble in participating as a spectator in the 112th Grey Cup on Sunday?
I did not.
Supriya!
I know. I'm sorry. I probably should have even, bandwagoned for this one too, just like I did for the Jays, because the Montreal Alouettes were in there. But I got to be honest, and I think I've mentioned some version of this before, but like, if you no longer have a heterosexual man living in your house with you, sports just, they're just not on the TV.
They just go by the wayside.
Yeah, and like I used to get so much like sports knowledge just via osmosis, right? Like your husband's next to you on the couch, he's like, you guys are talking about your fantasy leagues or whatever, placing bets, so then he's talking about it, he's getting an ESPN alert for some trade that he's pissed about or something, so then about it, you know what I mean? And like once that's gone, it's like I have to actively seek it out.
Well, you got me and Johnny every single Monday.
I mean, that's true. So
Supriya,
you got to
How many gay men are you living with now?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, it's just me, my daughter, and like 6 gay men trying to get me ready every morning for work.
Well, they're doing a fabulous job because you look amazing. So it wasn't even a Machine Gun Kelly wasn't even enough to draw you out. The halftime show, the CFL kind of, I don't know, Johnny, if they pulled out all the stops, but Johnny, it was a good
halftime show.
Supriya, Johnny, as you know, and you actually kind of are this to me as well, but Johnny's kind of like my pop culture consultant. Johnny brings pop culture credibility to the show. I was unable to assess the celebrity stature or the pop culture influence of the man they call MGK. But what did you think about it? A lot of covers in there, Johnny? What did you think?
Yeah, it was a good show. I thought it was great. I don't know about the Rams jersey he was wearing.
Well, I thought it was like kind of like a general. It was like just a general football jersey. It was like one that you buy at like H&M or Zara or something.
But a little tone deaf to be like, come on, you couldn't put on like even like a Canada jersey. But yeah, I thought a very good halftime show. I know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to do the same thing the NFL is doing, which is like, hey, even if you don't like sports, even if you're not 40 plus white male, here's a little something for you. Grab some chicken wings and sit down for an hour at the halftime show. So I thought it was good. Did it relate to all the majority of the fans who watch CFL? No, but I err on the side of like the halftime show isn't for you, man. It's to keep your friends and family who are with you at the game,
totally,
because you're a big sports fan, a little entertained.
Yeah, I mean, we were just watching you with family. I made chili from scratch, my friend.
Nice.
A buddy of mine actually ripped me yesterday. He says to me, because I told him I stepped out of the house for a few hours to meet the boys. I was down in Calgary. He says, "What are you doing for Grey Cup?" And I said, "Well, I'm making chili from scratch." He goes, "You don't make chili from scratch, dude. It's like cans of beans and diced tomatoes and ground, but it's not from scratch." I digress, but I was making the chili from scratch. I wanted to have a moment of Canadiana for my young boys who admittedly, don't have like strong Grey Cup Sunday kind of memories. I don't know. I feel like, and I want that to be part of it. Maybe I'm trying a little too hard. But when Machine Gun Kelly came on, my 10-year-old, his cousins, they turned it on. They were intrigued. I guess that's kind of the whole point. Like the CFL's trying to recruit the next gen of fans. That's kind of the whole point of it all.
Is this like taboo to say, but shouldn't the halftime show be by a Canadian?
Well, we've debated this before. What do you? I mean,
is that yay or nay? Yeah.
Well, have they run through all of them? I mean, I'm saying that facetiously, but I mean, if you want to go like I would love to see. Like, who are the big ones now? Like get like Tate McRae or get Drake or
Tate McRae would be huge.
Tate McRae would be unreal.
I don't know if
Grey
they
Cup,
can even
right?
afford her now. She's like top
Maybe
5
not.
pop star right now. But yeah, I agree. Like Tate McRae, Avril Lavigne, all these people I'm sure have come through. Some 41. I mean, they had Rush like doing the kind of some of the NHL promos this year and some of the CFL like commercials and stuff. But I don't know. I think it's pulling that younger. Every major sports, like the 4 big sports, they're all trying to do the same thing.
Green Day last year, right?
Green Day last year as well. They're trying to pull in fans younger and get them into sports earlier, right? Because the main bulk of people who watch sports are, and I'll say it again, like just look it up, they're all 40 plus, right? So I think this does that, but yeah, I agree. It's how much Canadiana can you pull into it? It's already pretty. The whole thing's Canadian, right?
Well, and so Supriya, the Prime Minister. I want to be careful. I just want to be accurate, not careful. I want to be accurate how I frame this. It sounded like the Prime Minister was getting booed, and I saw that some people in our chat, I think it was Wise Kyle right away, was like, like Carney getting booed, and then I saw Jamie in our live chat saying, well, hang out. Jamie says, I would like to point out the majority of the booing was actually directed toward the CFL commissioner based on the recent rule changes. The CFL's kind of like evolved. I'm not the guy to talk about it. I'm like, my CFL knowledge is like 2 out of 10. My respect is higher than 2 out of 10, but my knowledge of it, they're making the game a little bit more American. And Jamie says, sure, there's probably some boos toward the PM, but the main boos were at the rule changes. I don't know. I know there were a lot of Rider fans there. All the Sasky fans, fueled by Pill, were probably, booing the Prime Minister to a certain degree, I guess. But it was cool to see him there, I think. I think it's something that he should, be part of.
Yeah, I think it was cool to see him there. I think, it makes sense for the Prime Minister to be at the Grey Cup or any sort of other, sports final, as long as there isn't some sort of weird curse that they're trying to avoid, right? In terms of jinxing one of the teams or whatever. In terms of whether or not he was booed, I mean, yeah, look, I think there was clearly some boos in the mix with some cheering. I don't think it serves anybody that's a supporter of this government to try and be parsing the boos versus the cheers. And at exactly this moment, the decibel you can hear, it's more cheers than boos. Like, when you're explaining you're losing and it just kind of whatever. I think this should probably serve as a lesson, though, for the Prime Minister and those around him. That these things are a risk, right? Because now, like, I don't know if you guys saw, but there's a ton of chatter online. Canada Proud has taken this up as a cause that apparently he was like booed beyond whatever. But that is what happens. You get these little moments and they can turn out to be bigger than they are. And if you weren't watching the game like myself, then you only saw it online, then that's probably what you're going to come away from it, right?
Yeah. I kind of have mixed feelings on whether or not you're like, as a politician, you're only going to show up to stuff where you're going to get favorable reactions. Sometimes I respect people that sort of go into the lion's den.
Sure.
I mean, I think there's a certain degree of confidence that comes with it. I guess it depends, though, at the time. Hey, just a heads up, like I'm about 5 seconds away from a phenomenal segue. But at times where the public opinion is factoring in a big way at pivotal moments in either your own political career or in the history that is being written with your government, sometimes public-facing expressions of public opinion are more important than others. And on this day, Supriya Dwivedi, as parliamentarians will vote on Mark Carney's first budget, I guess you could say that that's exactly the case right now. If all the numbers work out the way the Liberals figure they will, they'll be 2 votes shy. I'm sure that there's been a ton of posturing behind the scenes. That's why you're here to talk to us about it. But, the question today is, will this budget pass or not? There's some rumblings that some NDP MPs may abstain to help the numbers in favor of the Liberals. Elizabeth May is sort of wielding some power here, but she wants to see environmental action on the LNG file. What are you prognosticating?
Yeah, first of all, A++ segue, buddy.
Thank you.
It's great, yeah. So to your point, now that Don Trumeau has crossed the floor over to the Liberals just need 2 MPs to vote along with their budget, and then they likely have the numbers, or they could get 4 MPs to abstain from voting against it. So just, not show up, not vote, whatever, and then the Liberals would still have the bulk of the votes to let the budget pass. Otherwise, of course, if they don't have the votes, then this afternoon the government would be deemed to have lost confidence of the House and the government would fall, and that would mean that we'd be headed into an election likely in the first week of January. And when you were talking to the minister there, just, prior to me coming on, she certainly talked optimistically about the budget being passed. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, Ryan, but to me, it didn't sound like she was super confident that they had gamed out the numbers here. Like, she didn't say definitively, and maybe she shouldn't,
So here's kind of what I took away from that. I got a lot of respect, by the way, for ministers. She's my MP, as a matter of fact. But Eleanor. Like, I know that I saw some people in the chat being like, "Sorry, who is this? Like, I don't recognize this person." She's relatively new. She won, back at the end of April, her first term as an MP. But if you talk to progressive political circles in Alberta, or you talk to sort of Liberal supporters in the Metro Edmonton region, she's been well known for a long time. I got the sense kind of right out of the gates, my first question about recruitment, my first question about getting people to cross the floor, and this, she just moved on right away. She sort of said, like, yeah, there's kind of a lot we could say about that, but I'm not really here to talk about that. And you're kind of like, as an interviewer, I guess I could follow up, but it's pretty obvious that unless you're the prime minister, or unless you're maybe the chief government whip or someone that's intimately or more directly involved in that, I didn't get the sense that she was going to talk a lot about that. Maybe she just kind of wants to stay in a different lane. I'm not sure. I also thought it was kind of interesting at the end where she was like, I'm not sure we want to be putting on our Canada Goose jacket and our sorels and like knocking door to door, for a winter election. So, I guess the different tone could have been, I'm confident this budget will pass. I'm confident that, we've reached out and done the bridge building to members and other, or maybe she just feels like that's not her news to share. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But, we've talked about this before, and my own view is that if you are a government in a minority position, which this government is, even though they do have a very strong minority, is that it's your job to sell the budget to the other parties. It's not the other party's job to keep you in government, right? And so I think it's interesting that she didn't go into those details about, to your point, about wooing other members or whatever, trying to garner support. But, it is fair to say that may not be her news to share, and I certainly respect that. But it just, strikes me as a little bit odd or just off kilter that at 11 a.m. Eastern or 10:45 Eastern, whenever she would have made those remarks on your show, we still don't know whether the budget's going to pass.
Right, but can you imagine if she said that she's confident that it's going to, and then it didn't?
Falls. Yeah.
Right? Hey, based
course.
on your experience, I mean, you're this is amazing. People should follow you on Instagram at Supriya Dwivedi. Your Instagram for like a year and a half was just like the photos that we see, like you on the couch with the prime minister one-on-one having these meetings. I was thinking what a cool role that is. But obviously as a senior strategist or a senior advisor, you'd have insights into message control. Now, I'll acknowledge that different prime ministers or different bosses may approach it differently, but what was messaging control like when you've got almost 200 MPs in your party and with many different personalities and answering to different constituencies with different dynamics across the country? How tightly do you expect to control the narrative or control the messaging?
I mean, you can try your best, right? I mean, we certainly did, but I don't know if you remember. It's not like we could always keep caucus in line, right?
Were there a few flare-ups?
I think so. Maybe
I'm trying to remember who is that gal on the West Coast, Jody? Who is that? And Celine. There were a couple. Yeah, not to make light of it.
Yeah, so it's always going to be challenging because to your point, there are a bunch of MPs who all have, different constituencies that they do have to answer for. And if you are in a position like this government is, where you do have MPs elected all over the country and not just concentrated in, one part of the country, that you've got a bunch of different competing interests. And so in that respect, I think it makes sense. But overall with this budget, I think the main issue, and this is not, particular to this government. I think this is a challenge for a lot of governments, particularly when people are feeling an affordability crunch, is how to connect all that, like, and I'm not saying this pejoratively, I say this with great respect, but all of this high level macroeconomic talk that the prime minister is excellent at doing, talking about how we're going to boost productivity, how, now that we've made the conditions a little bit better for investment, that investment's going to flow in, increasing our own, economic fortunes as a country. That's all well and good, but how does that connect to my day to day in terms of my, microeconomics? How is the boost in productivity, let's say, or an increase in GDP or whatever metric you're going to use, how is that going to make my berries cheaper when I have to buy like 3 or 4 things of, raspberries a week because my 6-year-old has an insatiable appetite for fresh raspberries and strawberries?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right? Like things like your everyday, like utilities, like gas, kids' clothes, whatever. And Christmas is coming up. So
Supriya,
like,
here's just like a real life, just here's just an average Canadian answer. I was talking to my brother yesterday. He lives down in Calgary, wife, 2 young kids, entrepreneur. We're not allowed to officially advertise what he does, but if people are looking for Canada's best cannabis, my personal recommendation is Joy Botanicals.
Mine too. Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. So Jonas is telling me, and I don't think he would mind me sharing, they live a middle-class lifestyle in a wonderful Southeast Calgary neighborhood, Lake Bonavista, for anybody down there. Sort of like an average price home for that neighborhood. And he was telling me just his insurance, not property taxes, his house insurance went from $2,300 just for the house insurance for the premium, $2,300 2 years ago, $4,400 this past year. It almost doubled. That's just the insurance, not the property taxes, not the utilities, not anything else. It knocked my socks off when I heard it.
Yeah. And like, again, if you're a family that is, struggling, or you're going essentially paycheck to paycheck, that's a huge jump, right?
Yeah.
And factor that in with property tax increases, because a lot of municipalities across the country are likely going to be facing that as well. And it's I don't know how folks are doing the regular day to day when you see the prices of things. Like, it is a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for this government if they do get the budget passed, which I know I do expect them to win the vote. I think a few MPs will get the flu or whatever and forget to sign into their app to vote against it. Is how you move forward in keeping Canadians confident in your own plan. So there isn't, this rumbling of, well, it's all well and good, we've got this great, economic head for that's, heading up the government, but what does that mean for my own fortunes when, stuff is still so expensive? My kids, if I have older kids, they're not getting out of my basement into a first home, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So we've got, let's assume that the Conservatives, now it's possible that some Conservatives may not vote. And I do think that there's a lot to talk about. You and I have talked in past Mondays, and we'll talk in future Mondays about Pierre Poilievre and his future. Everybody knows that there's a leadership review coming for him in January. Wouldn't it be great for him if there was another federal election before then? I don't know how realistic that is, but wouldn't that be great to kind of look to save his bacon a little bit? It wouldn't happen before the leadership review, but at least there would be some sort of a thing where, like, we got to rally behind the leader, and we got to, it's pedal to the metal, and we got another kick at the can. So you assume that anybody within the Conservative Party, MPs I'm talking about, that are still loyal to or still believe in Pierre Poilievre, that their vote is going to be a motivated vote no against this budget. The NDP, I think, is where you wonder on this, either by abstaining or otherwise. They could swing that in certain directions. There's 7 of them. For benefit of the audience that may not know, the Bloc Québécois, kind of an interesting one. I saw Chantal Hébert over the weekend saying that there's not a chance in hell that any Bloc MP would vote to support this budget, despite the fact that some of them have huge infrastructure investments coming in their particular ridings, including one Quebec riding that would see a new airport. And then you've got Elizabeth May, who told Rosie Barton yesterday, quote, "Right now, I'm a no." She might just be playing it cool, though. She might just be driving a hard bargain, but the Green Party MP, what is she, the co-leader, says that she won't vote for the budget yet because of its insufficient climate measures. Where do you see the flex happening here? Conservatives, maybe a few, could abstain, which could throw the numbers. You figure that the Bloc's a hard no, all of them?
I think the block is likely going to be a hard no for all of them, and whomst am I to disagree with the great Chantal Hébert, right? I think I would be very surprised, though, if there were a few abstentions from the Conservative benches. I would have to imagine, if I'm the Conservative whip, this is very much a full-throated no on this budget, irrespective of what your constituency is. You at the end of the day, need to convey this fact that you do not have confidence in the government, and you as Conservatives would feel as though you're in a much better position to lead the House as on those government benches. So that to me is interesting. And we talk a lot about the NDP only having 7 seats, you said?
7.
So they need 5 more to get to party status, right? And yes, they are broke. Yes, they are, they only have an interim leader right now in Don Davies and don't have a permanent leader. They're in the throes of a leadership race themselves. But if you're the NDP and you feel as though you cannot absolutely support this budget, and you want to show your constituents that you're not just abstaining, but that you're actively, fighting for them for better, whatever, it might make sense to just target on those 5 ridings that you need to get to full party status. So there's a benefit to the gamble for the NDP as well. And I don't know. I hope sanity prevails. I certainly do not want an election to take place over, the Christmas holidays and looking at an early to mid-January voting day. But it's possible if all these different MPs and parties have their own calculations. It's hard. It really is hard to say with any certainty whether or not this will pass. Like, I think on a balance of probabilities it'll pass, but am I saying beyond a reasonable doubt? No.
Yeah, I think it'll just barely pass. I'm expecting a nail biter, and then I think it buys the government a little bit of time, and I don't think that storyline is all said and done around the idea around, when I say this, I'm talking small p, small c progressive conservatives, or at least the small p progressive conservatives potentially finding that Pierre Poilievre's act is wearing a little thin. I think that there's more on that storyline to come. Leading up to his leadership review. Listen, I know that, we've got about 10 more minutes with you, and this is always the way that it goes, much to my chagrin. It's like a few hours after we hang out with you, a few hours after we talk to you, just these bombs drop. And this one was the Epstein documents released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. There's been developments over the weekend with a pretty remarkable comment from Donald Trump and a pretty telling comment from Marjorie Taylor Greene. But before we get into that, just your thoughts generally on that story over the past 5 days or so, and where it goes from here. The Republicans, like MAGA crew in particular, not laying off the gas on this. Like, Trump's got a real problem on his hands with his base.
He does. And this was always going to be a bit of a problem for him, given the fact that, he was in the documents. And now we know he's in the documents. He's mentioned in the documents quite a bit, and there's quite a bit of damning evidence in there in these documents that have now been released. And the reason why we're talking about this is because the House Oversight Committee, which by the way is led by the GOP, they released like 20,000 more pages of documents, and anybody who's named in them, but particularly if you're like a sitting public figure, or in this case a sitting president, it makes them look very bad. And all of the sort of defenses to this that we've heard from Republicans, particularly MAGA Republicans, was that the Epstein thing was some sort of big Democratic cover-up because of Epstein's ties to all these Democratic politicians, without realizing that, or maybe they did and they thought it would never come out, but that, him and Trump were tight. He has a lot of stuff on Trump. There's, in those emails, he questions Trump's mental acuity. He questions whether or not there's an email exchange between Epstein and his brother asking whether or not there are photos of Trump blowing Bubba, which led all of the internet to speculate of whether Bubba meant Bill Clinton, because that was Bill Clinton's nickname.
Did you see Saturday Night Live this weekend, by the way?
I didn't, but it is recorded. So
great episode.
Okay.
Great episode.
I won't ruin it.
Great
Okay.
episode.
But pretty much like the entire weekend update is about Bill Clinton blowing Donald Trump blowing Bill Clinton. Yeah. So just.
And the correction, by the way, that Epstein's brother released wasn't that there was no, beach going on anywhere. It was that it wasn't, Bubba doesn't refer to Bill Clinton. Yeah. So that's also, I don't know. Like,
nothing to see here.
Yeah, exactly. And now him and Marjorie Taylor Greene have essentially broken up, and I'm using that in air quotes just in terms of their political marriage or whatever, because she's now very on the side of the victims, which is what we should be in this case. And I don't know, to me it's somewhat refreshing to see these previously MAGA pilled folks kind of be brought into, the land of reality, because nobody should be protecting powerful men and women who are preying on children, who are pedophiles, playing on children. And I don't want to hear any of that. Well, if you're 16, it's not really pedophilia. It's fuck that. No, they're children. You're a pedophile.
Yeah, 100%. Let's hear it for context. We'll go to Trump first, then we'll go to MTG on CNN. So basically, he started calling her Marjorie Taylor Greene for anybody. I mean, I think everybody already knows this, but she has been one of his biggest supporters. She would run through walls for Donald Trump. But the one thing that she's been steadfast on is the Epstein file. She wants to see them released, and she's been increasing her volume on that, earning this new nickname from the president. Well, he was asked about that just hours ago, and here's what Donald Trump had to say.
Taylor Greene says her life could be in danger because of the rhetoric.
Her life is in danger? Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, he says.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her.
Unbelievable stuff. I don't think anybody cares about her, says the president, doubling down on the nickname that she doesn't love. Well, here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say about it in an appearance on CNN. Marjorie Taylor Greene on CNN. Interesting. You don't get that every single day, but you want to talk about candor? You want to talk about real talk? Check this out.
You posted on X that President Trump is, with his comments, fueling a, quote, hotbed of threats against you. Obviously, any threats to your safety are completely unacceptable. But we have seen these kinds of attacks or criticism from the president at other people. It's not new. And with respect, I haven't heard you speak out about it until it was directed at you.
Dana, I think that's fair criticism. And I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another, and we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
So What? That's Marjorie Taylor Greene in conversation with CNN's Dana Bash. Your thoughts?
I mean, look, I think
great.
It's good. I think anytime somebody's going to come back into the land of reality is a good thing. And I think those of us that, are still firmly entrenched in reality should welcome those that are, come back to our side. I think it is interesting and good for Dana Bash for asking the question. So, pointedly, basically saying you didn't really care until it was directed at you. So now what? And I think it's incumbent upon anybody who has a platform, but particularly who has a platform as a political leader, to model by example, right? And I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene has not always led by example in the past, and she owned up to it. But I think right now, we do need to be kinder to one another. And that doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden start embracing, the most vile folks that don't believe you should be a human or whatever. But it does mean engaging with rational people across the aisle to find common ground so that, in their case, America can move forward. But I think that's true for any country, including ours.
Yeah, totally agree with you. We got to let you go in 60 seconds, so I'm going to play the clip after we say goodbye, but I know you've heard it. The great one, 99, The guy's had the key to the city here in Edmonton since the early 1980s, but obviously found himself in a bit of hot water with a lot of Canadians for his support of Donald Trump, attending a number of events at Mar-a-Lago and the like. A podcast appearance with John Shannon and Darren Millard appears to be, I don't know if you call it damage control, but what did you think of the interview?
It's annoying. It's like he still doesn't get it, Gretzky, that is, It's like he keeps saying he's like apolitical. He can't vote in Canada. First of all, you can vote in Canada, even if you live in the U.S., but whatever. And second of all, it's okay to be conservative politically. That is what he is. It's fine.
It's fine.
He's endorsed Harper in the past, hasn't he?
Yep.
So it just seems like he's like the 45-ish% of conservative voters that approve of Trump in the U.S. And if they're friends, then just say that. Like, stop giving these weaselly answers and just own it. Like, yeah, he's my friend. Yeah, I'm a conservative. I support him. Or if you don't support him, then just say, I'm friends with him, but I don't support him politically. I was at his inauguration party or whatever it was for the vibes and the champagne.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to see what Johnny thinks about it, too. We'll put it in front of the jury of our peers that is the Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power.
See you on Friday,
is Supriya Dwivedi. Joins us the first episode of every week in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. What did you want to say?
I am going to be here on Friday, and I'm looking forward to seeing both of you.
I can't wait to see us up.
Well, let's let the cat out of the bag and let everybody know as well. You're going to be you're popping out to our beautiful home province of Alberta, and next Monday you will join us in our studio, which we cannot wait for. We'll see you in a few days.
Sounds good. Bye, Ryan.
Okay, friend. Thank you very much. Yeah, Supriya Dwivedi going to join us right here in the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. How cool is that?
Just a beautifully echoey but beautiful building that we love so much.
Hey, so you were I hope you don't mind me revealing to the audience. I don't think you'll mind, but Johnny's, when he's flying the plane here, and you guys have seen his producer station. Johnny's he's like sitting proper he's got very good posture, both feet on the ground, properly operating the controls,
Stop.
But the MTG comment on CNN blew you back in your chair. You just about fell over backwards.
The last 60 days has been blowing my mind, and I'm working on. I told you I was, and I do want to play it before the end of the week because we have our Christmas party on Friday. I have basically a montage, a highlight of the last 60 days. How many people have done a complete almost 180 in the media who used to be full on front of the row, flag waving, MAGA enthusiasts. I'm talking about in the manosphere, Joe Rogan, Nick Fuentes, Andrew Schultz, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro. I mean, I have a montage that I hope we can play by the end of the week of them all flipping and basically saying, this isn't what I voted for. These politics are getting too heated. There's too much division. Now there's too much division, guys. But especially with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean, I'm laughing because I'm almost like, am I insane? Am I living? Am I in a dream, Ryan? And the dream just feels like I've been there for 2 months because Marjorie Taylor Greene is apologizing on CNN to the announcer where she used to just talk over them. She's saying fair criticism in an interview, but she's also doing something that I think all Republicans, especially the white males and the other guys in the House who I know are way more intelligent than Trump, who could have seen this coming a mile away and maybe just towed the line and went along and go along to get along the whole time. But it's getting to the point where, like, what is going on here? Why are people not standing up and saying, this is wrong, this isn't right? Like Supriya said, we're debating on right-wing politics shows and talk shows about whether 15 or 16 was okay for Donald Trump or Bill Clinton. I don't care if they're left or right, to be talking or associating or engaging in sexual activity in certain states with young women.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're 5 or 15. They're kids.
Well, yeah. I mean, it all seems obvious, right? I mean, it's like the smoke screens and the obfuscation
around it. But for MTG to be the leader of this crowd is just, I'm in the 12.
Well, and so in our live chat powered by Park Power, Christine says, Marjorie didn't mind saying plenty of things that cause threats to others. If she's truly sorry, that's great, says Christine, but no one should have to endure threats and harassment. Ms. KD says this is MTG's rebranding tour. You got to love when they start eating their own. Noob says, it feels dirty to agree with MTG when she's actually right. He says so many times it feels like we're living in an alternative timeline. Noob says reality has been totally fucked for quite some time. Ken, Super Chat Ken says, you'd have to be very deep in the cult to vote for this person. Never mind voting for Trump. My 2 cents says she dug her own grave. Justin says, what a snake. She just wants to be governor. Greg says she's cringe. Giants for Life says the laser must have got her. Mindy says if she can change, anyone can. Tracy hits the nail on the head, says politics are about evolution and how much voters believe the changes. That's a really insightful comment from Tracy. I'm not comparing Marjorie Taylor Greene to Pierre Poilievre at all. This is a new paragraph. As a matter of fact, this is a new chapter. But in the spirit of what Tracy said, what's been the number one criticism around Pierre Poilievre right now is that he hasn't been able to pivot. He hasn't been able to evolve.
Yeah,
he's still obsessing over the same things he obsessed over before, and he hasn't pivoted. Had he been able to pivot, or maybe this is on Jenny Byrne as much as it is him, a lot of people have said that things could be different for Pierre Poilievre.
100%. I feel like he's wearing cement blocks on his feet. It just seems insane to me. And I know our friend who was on, was it Friday or Thursday? Brian
Lilly was on Wednesday.
He said something like,
12th.
he made some good points. But one thing he said that I totally disagreed with was he said, well, if there's an election called, who's better on affordability? Pierre. Who's better on Canada being strong against Trump? Pierre. So how do you think a Christmas election's going to end up? And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, well, he was stronger the last time on exactly those things. And look at the outcome of the election. And I haven't seen a change from him at all. And if anything, and I feel like he's a little in the background now. I used to check Pierre's Twitter every morning to see what he was saying. Now I'm like, oh, it's the same thing over and over. And it's not to say that he needs to soften up at all, but he needs to change a little bit. Mark Carney is not Justin Trudeau. It worked really well with Trudeau because we all were kind of sick of him, let's be honest. And it worked really well. The hits, the bombs, the affordability crisis, Trump, etc., housing. But it's not working the same with Carney. You've got to do something else.
Yeah, I want to get to the Gretzky clip. We ran out of time with Supriya, shooting the shit about the Grey Cup, which I wouldn't change a thing. We've also had our intrepid production team behind the scenes. I'm a big Ryder guy now. Big Ryder fan now. Oh, yeah. Big Ryder fan. I've been went to Popeye Friesen Brothers trying to find watermelons.
Big watermelon. It's out of season.
I think they probably still have. I was just trying to put my helmet together. My son Wyatt's looking at me. He looks in the stands and he's like, "What's with all the watermelons?" I go, "Buddy, they're from Saskatchewan."
We don't get it either.
Why ask?
We don't get it either.
But is there anybody having more fun at Grey Cup than Riders fans? I don't think so. Although based on my social media feed this weekend, it looked like everybody was having a good time in Winnipeg. Shout out to Winnipeg.
A huge shout out to Winnipeg. Amazing stadium. I think it was built in the last half of the 2010s. But I was watching it and I was like, this is good for them. Riders, like Elks fans, like Argos fans, they have a rich culture. They have a big history, and they are so I am fearful when the Elks play the Riders because they come all the way out. They come for the tailgate. They're so loud.
They're next level.
They are all in. So when I saw them win and I was like, you know what? Especially in the CFL, because we have so few teams. I was like, enjoy it. This is a great fan base. Yeah. It's great for the league. They're incredible.
I'm thrilled for our neighbors in Saskatchewan, and I hope they enjoy. I know you don't need to invite people in Saskatchewan to enjoy the Grey Cup win. They are currently enjoying.
They show up.
The Grey Cup win.
They invite themselves
with their Pilsner and their Baja Rosa and whatever else. Every time I'm in Saskatchewan, I've told you guys the story before. I find myself at a family gathering where we're listening to a Riders game on the AM radio, and every time the Riders score a touchdown, they're drinking out of these room temperature bottles of Baja Rosa, this creamy strawberry tequila drink. And it just so happened to be a game the Riders were just racking up points, and I've not touched Baja Rosa since, but not in a bad way, believe it or not. We'll get to the Gretzky clip in just a quick second. First, if you are at all considering heading back to school right now, sort of beefing up your post-secondary resume to re-enter the job market, or maybe it's different motivation for you, but you're perceiving these barriers in your way, like time frame or maybe even geography. You don't live near a post-secondary institution. Maybe you're living in a rural part of Canada, or maybe outside of Canada. Athabasca University is Canada's open university with dozens and dozens of programs and courses. You're bound to find a perfect fit for you. Plus, keep in mind that your only commute is to your device. And so a lot of these, objections, we might call them, kind of evaporate when you recognize more about the AU advantage. Open undergrad programs, flexible grad programs, including their Athabasca University MBA, plus online courses and on-demand professional development. Learn more about the applications and admissions process. Check out that list of programs and courses today by visiting athabascau.ca. Hard to believe, 125 years the Royal Alexandra Hospital has been imprinting itself on people's lives with the countless doctors, nurses, and support staff through that century and a quarter. The echoes of the Alex ring true, and we're hearing about them every Tuesday here on Real Talk. Your stories, Real Talkers, plus the iconic surgeons, nurses, administrators that have forged that reputation into what it is as one of Canada's most respected hospitals. We want to hear your story, your echo of the Alex. You can email it to us, talk@ryanjesperson.com. You could hear it featured on a future show. And if your family is making philanthropic decisions, if you're considering a donation to an organization that truly makes an impact in its community and beyond, may we suggest you support the Royal Alexandra Hospital Foundation. You can check out givetoroyalalex.org. Make a one-time gift, or maybe even consider a monthly commitment. Give for the future in honor of the past at givetoroyalalex.org. All right, so Johnny, this is just a few days ago. John Shannon, I think a lot of people have known Johnny was kind of a broadcast executive for a lot of years, plus an on-air personality.
Oh, yeah.
Along with Darren Millard, a longtime Sportsnet broadcaster. He's now doing the Vegas Golden Knights broadcast, which is kind of a cool landing spot for him. But they got a podcast together. They bring on Wayne Gretzky. They bring on 99, the great one. They call him a white whale for any hockey podcast. You want to make sure that you get the great one on the show. And not right out of the gates, but they did ask him about the controversy that he endured, or maybe is enduring, based on what appears to be outward support and certainly a friendship to some degree with U.S. President Donald Trump. And here's a portion of what Wayne Gretzky had to say on the show.
You posted on X that...
Oh, wait a second.
It's okay, pal. We got a lot going on
3,
right now.
2, 1.
You've received a lot of criticism about not defending the country, about the 51st state stuff that Donald Trump said. Do you understand the criticism?
Oh, sure, because Canadians are proud. But here's the two factors. I don't know how many people move to the U.S., whether it's business, entertainment, hockey, and I don't know the exact number, but I would tell you that over 90% of them become American citizens. I never became an American citizen. I'm Canadian. I can't vote in the U.S. because I live in the U.S. and I'm Canadian. I can't vote in Canada because I don't live in Canada. I'm not into politics. And so I can't stop the prime minister for saying something. I can't stop the president for saying something. I just kind of I'm just a hockey player. Simple as that.
You're a voice that people want to hear from. You do understand. you do understand that. You do.
Sure. But as I said to the prime minister, he wouldn't tell me how to play hockey. I'm not going to tell him what to do in politics. Simple as that.
By the way, is it true that Justin called you?
Yeah,
saying he supported you?
It was a wonderful phone call that he reached out, and he gave me a great line. He said, "I'm giving you a hug call." I said, "Okay, I needed it right now." So anyway, I understand. Canadians are proud. Simple as that.
But it kind of hurt me.
I told him, I said, we'll make the United States the 12th province. So.
I don't mind that.
Just tell Donald that, okay, Wayne? Just tell Donald that.
Did it hurt a little bit, though, Wayne?
Oh, and, people are going to say and believe what they want, right? The bottom line is, I know in my heart I'm Canadian, stayed Canadian, and Canadian citizen for life, and simple as that.
Okay. So that's
Simple as
Gretzky
that.
on 100% hockey with Millard and Shannon.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. It's so it's kind of interesting. The timing of the pod. It was released the same day that the Democrats released the emails around the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that the interview was recorded before. So kind of strange timing. When you look at it, you kind of go, well, how are they not? I mean, the whole point of that is to say, like, I would prefer for an interviewer, and I mean no disrespect to John Shannon and Darren Millard, who've had like long and esteemed careers in sports broadcasting, but like the real question you'd like to hear, and it may just have been a matter of timing overlap, is like, do you still stand by Donald Trump in light of recent revelations that directly tie him to sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah.
Like, that's the question.
Yeah.
Nobody, and first of all, I love Wayne Gretzky. I grew up hating him as a Flames fan, which I think most people can understand. But when you look at his contributions to the game, when you look at the rarefied air, when you look at the fact that he's arguably the greatest athlete in any professional sport, I'm happy to have that conversation. I love those types of debates. Wayne Gretzky and his hockey contributions to Canada have been remarkable. But I think that he's kind of either dodging the real meat of the real substance of the conversation here, or misunderstanding the question, because nobody's wondering whether or not Wayne Gretzky still has feelings for Canada, or whether or not Wayne Gretzky still feels connected to Canada. That's not the point.
True.
The point is, like, with arguably the most polarizing or divisive politician in the last 75 years, and certainly in the history of the American presidency, your close affiliation has sent millions of Canadians into a wind wobble based on who the individual is, not based on the fact that you're accepting invitations to be at the White House or to go to Mar-a-Lago, or the fact that, of course, as an elite athlete, Wayne Gretzky, through the course of his career, easily one of the most famous people on planet Earth, the most famous hockey player that ever lived. Like, there's no doubt about that. But that's not the question.
No. And it'd be kind of hard to bring up that whole pedophile question on the podcast, but I get it. That is what we're all thinking. We're saying, just ask him
Well, imagine if we had him on and didn't ask him about it.
I know, but we're a different show, but I'm saying, like, that's what we're all thinking right now. We're thinking, hey, it's fine to try and, like, all these glory boys from the 90s want to relive that whole thing. Hulk Hogan, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Donald Trump. They were the echelon of that time, right? I get it. But at this point, I mean, we're talking about kids now, and we're talking about covering it up, and we're talking about a lot of people. And again, I'll say this. I think everyone said it. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're on the left or the right. We need to know who these people are. And they need to be in jail for the rest of their life because they're old now already. Most of them are going to die in the next 20 years. So wherever they are, we need to get them in jail, all of them. We need to know who they are. And I kind of, like, I don't relate to Wayne Gretzky, obviously, but I get it. He was born in Canada, but he spent the majority of his life in the States. I was born in the States. I've spent the majority of my time in Canada. So you'd think that I would be like, if somebody asked me, I would say, well, I'm an American through and through. No, I'm not really. I feel like Canada is where I grew up. I feel like a Canadian. I love North America in general. I think the only thing good about when Trump says, like, Canada's a lot like the States, we should join together. I think we already are joined together. It's just North America. We share a lot of the same things. Yes, down south it's a lot different than here, but, like, I love North America in general. I love the United States, but I'm a Canadian in my heart. But let's be honest, like, he's lived in the States most of his life.
But this isn't even about, that's not even about that. Like, nobody faults a Canadian for that.
No, not at all.
Nobody's, I mean, like, I keep hearing people talk about this John Candy documentary, and I need to make sure I watch it.
I haven't watched it yet either.
If you want to look at, like, beloved Canadians, no one gives a shit if a beloved Canadian spends most of their professional career in the United States. In fact, we're very proud of them. I think of, like, Mike Trout, baseball player. We think of, like,
it's like
John
going
Candy's
to the NFL,
a good example.
right? It's
exactly, right? Like, nobody cares if Canadians go live and work. How Peter Jennings, these talented Canadians that work down in the United States.
Justin
it has
Bieber.
Nothing to do with that, right? We could name probably hundreds of them.
Yeah, Tate McRae.
But the idea is that, like, at the time where Canada's sovereignty was not just being threatened, but was, like, being absolutely disrespected. There was Gretzky, who is, this was the guy that talked about, like, they like buried the loony in the ice at the Olympic Games to beat the Americans. It was like Gretzky was like our, and so I think that's why people were upset.
I do wish he would stand up against Trump. You know why? Because Trump has gotten to the point where I don't want this division. I don't want Canada and the States at odds. I want us to be back to how we were brothers. And, the only time we get mad at each other is when it's, USA versus Canada in the Olympics. And then afterwards we have a beer together. That's why I wish he would call out Trump. At this point, when it's like kids are involved, all the crap we've gone through with Trump, we still got to, we still got till 2028, Ryan. But you know what I mean? It's like, he is the reason we're even having this conversation. He is the reason that we're pitting each other. He is the reason that I feel like this, an American living in Canada, grew up in Canada, loves his country, that I have to choose a side. We shouldn't have to do that. North America in general is the greatest place to live in the world. I feel like Canada is a little better than the States to live here, but I do agree with you. Like, if you make it in your career as a pop star, as a whatever you're doing, America is the place to go to make the big bank, to be the big celeb. But Trump is the reason we're having this conversation and we're at odds in the first place. We've got to all speak up against it, right, at this point. And I do agree that, especially when he says, at his age, when he says, I'm just a hockey player. Well, you're not a hockey player anymore, man. And politics, no matter how much you avoid it, you get to a certain age, you've got to say something. You have to dip your foot in the water. You have to take a side.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of, align with what Supriya said on this is like, number one, no one has to apologize for their own political convictions. Like, it's totally fine if you vote conservative. It's fine if you vote liberal. It's fine as an athlete if you completely stay out of it and don't say a damn thing. And I just think that when it came to reading the room, for Gretzky and Gretzky's sons too, I don't know them personally, obviously, but they're rolling around in the MAGA hats and stuff like that.
Well, this is what I mean.
It's doubling down. The name Gretzky in Canada and around the world is like a royal name. It's like through the
100%.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's like Kennedy in the United States. I mean, it's a major name.
You start to rethink things once in the city where you were once beloved. Excrement gets rubbed on the statue of you outside Rogers Place.
We do not support.
But I'll pose this to you. If you or I was invited to the White House by Donald Trump, 100% we're going. But the second you go there and you're pictured with people and somebody asks you a question and you say, I don't like politics. Once you've gone there, once you've accepted an invite, once you're pictured with a person, you have to at least tell us your opinion and feeling on that person. You can no longer avoid it. If you want to avoid it, don't go to the White House.
It's pretty interesting as these championship teams through the years, and it hasn't been this way forever, but in recent years, championship teams have been invited to the White House to visit with the president.
It's different just standing in a group behind
people. But you've had some athletes. I think of Tim Thomas with Boston Bruins when they won their Stanley Cup, did not go. It was that was the Obama years, and Tim Thomas objected and did not attend. He's not the only athlete. I respect that. At the same time, it's it puts athletes in a tough position, right? It's bringing sports and politics together, unless it's a sort of a mainstream, middle of the road politician that's relatively well liked at the time. Anytime you're interacting, you bring in athletes, and you look at how politicians versus athletes and other entertainers and other celebrities are measured by the public. Public opinion on politicians is based on entirely different metrics. And so it's always interesting, when an athlete or an entertainer steps out and supports a politician. A lot of people will say, do you remember the LeBron James thing? Who was it? Was it Laura? Who was it with Fox that told LeBron James to shut up and dribble? Do you remember that? People don't always have an appetite to hear athletes sharing their political opinions. I'm not saying that the comment, I think it was a bonehead comment. I think it was actually a disgraceful comment. But yeah, it's always a different thing. You look at a lot of these athletes and they have very protected, curated public personas. Do you think Connor McDavid would ever talk 5 seconds of politics? You think Sidney Crosby would Sidney Crosby ever talk politics publicly?
I don't think anyone thought in our wildest dreams, and now we're anything could happen, that the things that have happened during Trump's 2 presidencies would happen. That there would be a January 6th, that all these things would happen. And you're saying Connor McDavid, he dressed up as Trump and his wife was Melania for Halloween. But that was long before all these crazy things happened with Trump. That's when MAGA was just gaining steam, and it was like funny. Like he probably won't become president, but how hilarious is this? And now we're at a different point, right? So like, I just feel like when Gretzky went down there, it was the wrong time. This wasn't like the start of Trump's trying to become president or just becoming president. This is after all the crap. This is after Biden in the middle. It seems like the wrong time. So if you want to get on a podcast and respect to the great one, love Wayne Gretzky, and say, I'm just a hockey player. But are you though? Because your whole family was down there.
Yeah. Yeah. Scarlett says people were upset because Trump was talking about taking over Canada and Gretzky didn't defend us. Like he was basically at the inauguration of the celebration of his win. He was down at Mar-a-Lago, et cetera, et cetera.
Somebody's saying you would go to the White House if invited. Well, I don't think we'd be personally invited, but if most people get invited to an event at the White House, they don't get a sitting meeting with Donald Trump. I'm saying Gretzky went down there and it was a big hoopla. There was, 500 other people there, but they were also pictured in Trump hats, and they were also, they're down there as a family. So credit to John Shannon for even pushing back a bit there. After the first question, he was like, well, people care what you think. Yeah. He was trying to get something out of him because whether Wayne likes it or not, he's not on the ice anymore. He's not on a hockey team anymore. He's not a hockey player anymore. And today people really care, especially with the politics going on here in the States. They want to hear just once him say, F that guy and yay Canada.
Alberta Rancher says, my question is, ready, Johnny?
Don't.
Will Wayne's name be on the Epstein list? He played with the Rangers for years, and I assume there's the Trump connection there. That from Alberta Rancher.
I pose
there's
this.
A lot of people sweating right now.
I pose this question: What do you perceive the Epstein list to be? Because it can be a number of things. It can be who's pictured in video and audio tapes that Epstein had. Over 1,000, by the way. We haven't heard one clip. We haven't seen one screenshot. We haven't heard any audio. Thousands of hours of tape, we're told, is there. Or is it just someone who took a plane, a private chartered jet that Epstein loaned out to many people, often wasn't even on the plane? Somebody would say, hey, me and this person are going from A to B. We need a jet. We see yours in the hangar, and they took it. Yeah. We're talking about Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, tons of people, and people lower than them who just took flights places. So my question is, what do you think the Epstein list is? Is it anyone who ever met him? Anyone who ever accepted a lift on a jet? I don't even know what it is at this point. For me, the Epstein list is people who were involved in exploitation of women, children, and sex involved, and we're in these audio and videotapes. And that's what we really want to hear, see, or at the very least, if it involves like we can't see or hear it because these people are going to trial and it's evidence, great. Let's get them in a courtroom.
Agreed. Jim says, all Wayne had to say was, I told Trump I did not agree with his position on Canada.
Boom. That's easy enough for me. And
Jim could moonlight as a crisis comms advisor. Maybe Jim already is a crisis comms advisor.
Simple.
My 2 cents says lawsuits incoming for slander. This is not slander. Not even close. Justin says, Jespo, Johnny, I don't even think who's on the list is the real story. The real story is who's trying to stop everything from being released desperately. And why?
Well, I'm so confused at this point because, like you said, there was a lot of bombs dropped even yesterday and this morning. Trump is now saying, let's all vote on it. The House is back. Let's vote on it. Let's get the Epstein files out. What are you talking about? 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, you were saying this is a Democrat hoax. Nobody cares anymore. Let's move on. So I'm as confused as anyone. But at this point, is there anyone who doesn't want to see the list? If Trump is now saying just this weekend he wants to see it, everyone on either side, I don't know what the holdup is.
Scarlett says, I think we're about to see a whole lot of folks who were complacent when it comes to child trafficking. There were several damning comments from the emails that were released by the Dems I think it was the 12th of November, right? Mm-hmm. It was like literally as our live stream was starting and boom, Brian Lilly's coming on. We kind of, I wouldn't say blindsided Brian with it, but he hadn't even seen the story because he'd been doing an interview rolled hot into our show. So we kind of sussed it out there. And obviously I think that the world's kind of been watching this story over the past week as the details have have revealed themselves, and we expect that there's more to come. But, one comment in particular where Epstein says in an email, Trump, quote, knew about the girls. Which that is like there's a dramatic departure from the truth that has been presented by the president, at least his account of the truth, which was basically that, Epstein was banned from Mar-a-Lago 20 years ago and had no idea, no close ties. And that is, I think, proven to be demonstrably false.
But now we're seeing, in some of these emails that he was at the White House after he became president. That's not 20 years ago. So, I mean, yeah. And obviously Trump saying he's waded around it and saying that, it just meant that Jeffrey always had a lot of girls around him. He's made comments. We've seen comments from Trump that said, he's got a lot of beautiful women around him, and some of them are young.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? And now this whole debate on shows about whether 16 is this or 5 is that, Jesus.
I mean, that's just ludicrous.
I mean, under 18, under 20 even, when you're a 45-year-old man and you're going somewhere to an island where women are like, they're commodities. This is all bad. Let's get it all out in the open. But hey, maybe we'll just never see anything, Ryan, because, too many people with too much money or too powerful never want us to see it.
Ken K says, get ready for the Fox News softening of the facts, says Megyn Kelly is already talking about how a teenage girl is not the same as a 5-year-old girl. That's the disgusting path that they will follow. On a lighter note, I had no idea that mentioning Baja Rosa on the show would bring out dozens and dozens of comments in our live chat, but they absolutely are. Emily G says Baja Rosa is taking her back to Ezzy's, an iconic Edmonton nightclub, with the pita drink that they made. Others of you had suggested that Baja Rosa in coffee is actually better than Irish cream, which I had no idea about. I will say this, if you're looking for cream to put in your coffee, this show officially recommends Hanson Distillery at hansondistillery.com. I personally recommend what was it? Christine McCourt-Reed, interim CEO at the YWCA, brought in that a gingerbread cream the other day from Hanson, as we were talking about Rose Campaign. I personally recommend their salted caramel coffee creamer, which will blow your mind. But yeah, I did see some of you talking about Baja Rosa there, bringing back those memories. Interesting comment from Shirley. Responding to our conversation with Minister Eleanor Olszewski today, said the minister may want to check prices on Canada Goose jackets.
Oh, here we go.
Said these are beyond most people's budgets.
Yeah, well.
That from Shirley.
You know what? I'll just say
that.
Are
they still using real fur?
What do you expect the Prime Minister to be wearing? But I will also say, because I remember it, that, I didn't get a great feeling from him wearing it, because we have stated that, Pierre Poilievre once did an affordability message to the press, and he was wearing that Canada Goose jacket, and we were like, dude, you're telling people about the price of this and that, and how it's hard for everyone, and you're wearing a $2,000 coat.
I've always, it's a little bit ironic, but also what do you expect the Prime Minister to be wearing? So to fact check myself, Canada Goose jackets historically using real fur, coyote fur was what they were using for a lot of years. But the company announced 4 years ago it would stop buying new fur in 2021 and cease manufacturing with fur by the end of 22. However, there have been reports that some products with fur were still available as late or as of late 2024. I've always liked the look of the Canada Goose jackets. What do they price at? Oh, they're like, oh boy, geez. Look at this. I'm at CanadaGoose.com. This is a free one. They're not paying us for this.
Yeah, they're not
Although
cheap.
we will pressure them to send us free coats now.
2 G's.
You'll know when you see it. Yeah, like $1,800, $1,400, $1,200.
I will also say, I don't think Carney went to the website and ordered one, or in a
John,
store.
you know where
somebody handed him. Okay, here's a medium or whatever. Go.
Do you know where I would go if I needed high end winter wear?
Oh,
do you know where I would go, friends? If I couldn't be there in person at their unbelievable 3-story downtown Edmonton retail experience, I would be checking out The Helm online at thehelmclothing.com. By the way, they've got their 2025 gift guide out at thehelmclothing.com. Stunning selections from the sweaters you need, John, the knitwear that you need to wow those that you will be hobnobbing with through the holidays. Beautiful sweaters from Brunello Cucinelli and Gran Sasso and Polo Ralph Lauren and others, plus blazers, denim, and of course, winter coats, footwear. They've got you covered from head to toe. And you can find them online at thehelmclothing.com or in their beautiful downtown Edmonton location. If you are shopping The Helm online, don't forget the promo code REALTALK, all one word, will knock 10%. That's a big deal. 10% off your entire order at thehelmclothing.com. That's the promo code REALTALK at thehelmclothing.com. And before we get to a fantastic positive reflection from a good friend of ours checking in from Manitoba, I want to make sure that UCAN Youth Services is all over your radar. We talked to you a lot about the programs they have helping young people out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. Wanted to let you know seasonally, you have a chance to make Christmas brighter for young people in Alberta, in particular the Metro Edmonton region, by stuffing a stocking. You can do so at ucan.ca. Give the gift of confidence this Christmas. For a young person entering the workforce, a lot of times it's the little things that make a big difference, like a bus pass or warm socks for their new job or a coffee card, like the basics. This Christmas, you can fill a stocking that removes barriers and builds confidence for Edmonton youth starting their first jobs. Visit ucan.ca to make that, I'm going to say to make it rain, to bless somebody. Why not bless 100 of them if you can afford to do it? Again, at ucan.ca.
Or make it snow, Ryan. It's getting to be the weather outside is
We're almost there, pal. We're almost there. I'll let Real Talkers know. Get used to the set how it looks right now, because in a few short days, it will take on its seasonal influence.
I wish I had like a wash that was like
immediately
everything starts twinkling.
And Kenzie in our chat earlier said, well, where else does, on Mark Carney being booed at the Grey Cup, where else does the everyday citizen have a chance to indicate their displeasure to their elected officials? Wise Kyle was saying, yeah, Carney was definitely booed there. Cliff, I also wanted to read this one from Cliff. Cliff was there. And so he checks in. Awesome to have you in our live chat today, Cliff, powered by Park Power. He says, as someone who was in the crowd in Winnipeg, he says the Prime Minister was definitely booed by the fans. However, says Cliff, I'm really glad that he came. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau never attended the Grey Cup. I don't know if that's true, Cliff, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, number one, that's what I say. I want to see them, maybe not every, game in the playoffs, but like Stanley Cup, Grey Cup, I think final game, that the leader of our country should be there. Did I hear some boos? Yes, I heard some boos. Yeah. Are we going to play the video? No, because it was here and there. I mean, somebody said, go to the tape. Well, you went to it with Trump. Well, we went to it with Trump because they're building a stadium with the guy's name, and in the place where he's supposed to get the stadium, he was booed. That's why. But I'll say this right off the bat. You're the leader of any country. You go to a sporting game, there's going to be some boos.
Yeah.
You're president of Mexico. They go to a soccer game. We see the same videos every time.
Well, some countries, there's no booing. There's no booing in North Korea.
I would say Russia, and Putin's on the ice and he scores 10 goals every game, right? Because he's playing with the team. But for the majority in free countries, when you go somewhere as the leader, the top man, woman, whoever in the country, you're going to get booed. It happens.
What did someone wanted us to play the Carney booing because they thought that we were trying to cover it up or something? Is that right?
No, it's because the commissioner was introduced before.
I see what
he
you're
was
saying.
Also on the field while Carney was there. So you are right. It's like if Gary Bettman was out there with the Prime Minister.
Sure.
How do we know who's getting booed?
Bettman is booed out of love.
And I'm a Bettman supporter. I think the NHL would be way worse off than it is without Bettman, and he gets an unfair run, I think.
Yeah,
but he does get booed every time.
Yeah, because he's easy to boo and he's easy to dislike, but deep down inside, everybody respects him because he's actually grown the game in a huge way, right?
People watching.
Les also putting this on, of course, reminding that there's a lot happening right now, friends, and of course, through this week, we'll be covering all the top political and news stories today. It's the big budget vote that we're talking about most notably. Les has it on his radar today. He's keeping an eye on whether or not the UCP will invoke the notwithstanding clause to attack trans rights today. And we're, of course, going to wait to see what happens with those LPNs and healthcare aides, the support workers, about 16,000 of them that are bracing to strike right now. Another interesting story that we're following. I did also just do a tiny little dive before we launch Positive Reflections on some of the Grey Cup halftime shows through history.
Yeah.
And there are some pretty big names in there. Burton Cummings back in 1991 with Luba. Do you remember Luba?
Of course. But
what about, okay, so I'm going to rip through these. Tom Cochrane in 94, the Nylons in 96, which is amazing. You got Trooper. You got all the kind of like Canadian bands there through the 90s, the Guess Who in 2000. And then Shania Twain in 02, Bryan Adams and Sam Roberts together in 03. How about shout out to Gord and the Boys, the Tragically Hip in 04. Black Eyed Peas in 05. Lenny Kravitz in 07. I Love Blue Rodeo in 09. And then Bachman and Turner again. Nickelback played in 2011. Justin Bieber headlined the Great Time halftime show in 2012. And then I would say on the other, Shania Twain returned in 2017. Is One Republic a big deal? 2016.
They were in 2016.
Keith Urban in 2019. And then you kind of had a, here, there, everywhere. Green Day again in 2023. Jonas Brothers in 2024. And MGK yesterday.
See, there you go. So, like, yeah, it's gotten better in the 2000s. Like,
I forgot the Jonas
every
Brothers were
name
there.
you said before 2000 there, if you said that to someone, 18 to 25, most times they'd be like, other than like the Who, you know what I mean? Like, they'd be like, who, what are we talking about here? So Green Day, Joe Bros, like, bring them all. As long as, your young kids, your female family members, those people who don't watch the CFL all the time, that's okay. Go out to the man cave, go out to the garage, smoke darts, drink a beer, whatever you
don't smoke, kids.
You know what I'm saying though? Like that half hour, that hour is not for you. It just, it's so the rest of your family feels like there's a reason for them to be there that day.
Totally agree. The first episode of every week, courtesy of our friends at Solar by Kuby, we present a thought. This is typically an audience submission. Sometimes it's something from my heart, from Johnny's heart, but it's a step outside the news cycle designed to renew our faith in humanity. It's positive reflections presented by Kuby Renewable Energy. And this one, I smiled as soon as I saw Travis Curraw's name in my inbox to talk at RyanJesperson.com. This guy's the host of the 2 and Out CFL Podcast, one of the biggest CFL supporters and a wise sage around the Canadian game. And it's always great to hear from Travis. He says, Jespo, the dust has settled on the 112th Grey Cup from Winnipeg, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders are Grey Cup champions for the 5th time in their 115-year history. Look how close he is to the field there. Jeez. He says most of those 115 years have been full of heartbreak, so when a win comes around for us melon heads, it's time to celebrate. Kilometers were driven, beers were drank, tears were shed, and how sweet it is, says Travis. Goofs with keyboards will tell you that nobody cares about the CFL or the Grey Cup, but the ratings will show that millions across the country watched and celebrated a game and a league that 100% belongs to Canada. He says Winnipeg put on a show. It says Friendly Manitoba on their license plates for a reason. Fantastic hosts, fantastic people who sold out every Blue Bomber game this year, and it ended with over 30,000 fans sitting outside in November celebrating our game. Most of the Bombers fans cheering against the Riders. Travis says, I've now made it to every Grey Cup since 2009, so with the missed season in 2020, this is my 16th straight Grey Cup, and it remains as special as ever. Travis says, as I age, I crush a few less Pilsners, he says, but don't worry, guys, just a little less. And I enjoy the host city, the province, and everything it has to offer. Says, before this year's game, we made it up to Churchill to spend time with polar bears. He says, and I'd like to say that it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but I think we've already decided we're going to get back to Churchill as soon as we can. Look at those photos. Unbelievable. He says, and then to enjoy the Grey Cup just a few days later, what a beautiful province Manitoba is. What a beautiful country that we're so lucky to call home. I can't believe he says they got to watch a mother polar bear nursing her cub. What? Travis, he says, it seemed like all the politicos were out in full force as well. Premier Scott Moe, Saskatchewan Premier, obviously, former Prime Minister Harper, pre-gaming at the Pony Corral, which is a Winnipeg institution. And he says, and can we declare the Mark Carney curse over? Made an appearance at Riderville on Saturday night. He put on a Rider ball cap. He picked them to win on Sunday. I thought it was a pretty solid coin toss as well. Travis says the league has given me the opportunity to meet so many cool people from coast to coast, and I sit here at 2:30 in the morning gearing up for a long drive back to Blackfalds, Alberta. Trav, who may be in transit as we speak, says the 13-hour drive will be a lot easier, cheering for a Grey Cup champion. Go Riders! That from Travis Curra, who's been a wonderful friend of this show. He is co-host of the Out CFL Podcast. Do them a solid and subscribe to their podcast today. Rate it, review it, the same as you do for us. Shout out to Travis and all the Riders fans, plus CFL fans across the country who made their way out to Winnipeg to make us all proud. Positive Reflections presented weekly by our friends at Solar by Kuby. Get a free solar quote today by visiting Kuby.ca and send us your positive reflection to talk@RyanJesperson.com. More to come in 22 hours, friends. We'll see you then.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton.